There is a man on this list who used to hawk sachets of water in Lagos traffic. There is another who spent months sleeping rough in Paris with nothing in his pockets. And the person holding the #1 spot right now is not the name trending on your timeline. He is not Nigerian. He is not South African. He is 76 years old. He sings in a language most of the internet has never heard, and he has been compounding money since the 1970s, while the rest of us argued in comment sections about who runs Afrobeats. Welcome back. Today, we count down the 20 wealthiest celebrities in Africa for 2026. But before the first name drops, I need to reset something in your head because it will change what you actually see in this video. For most of modern African history, fame and money lived in separate houses. An artist could sell out arenas from Kampala to Abidjan, become a name in every household on the continent, and still end up broke because the money bled out through exploitative label contracts, absent royalty systems, piracy at industrial scale, and managers who were not managing anything but themselves. That model is dead. The people you are about to meet killed it. They stopped begging Western gatekeepers for entry, built distribution they controlled, took ownership stakes instead of one-off checks, turned African sound into a genuine global export, and converted their own names into companies with balance sheets. So understand what this list actually is. It is not 20 famous Africans. It is 20 business operators who happen to be recognizable. And the gap between those two mindsets is the difference between $8 million at number 20 and $145 million at number 1. Here is my end of the deal, and then one small ask. Every figure here comes from publicly reported estimates, Forbes coverage, celebrity net worth, business filings, transfer fees, and contract reporting. And I am going to be straighter with you than most channels bother to be. Measuring wealth in Africa is genuinely messy. Financial disclosure is thin. Celebrities routinely inflate their own numbers because inflated numbers sell shows, entertainment blogs, copy each other's guesses until a guess becomes a fact. And a man with 6 supercars in his driveway can easily be worth less than a woman you have never heard of who quietly owns a television station. So treat these as the best available estimates, not scripture, and I will tell you precisely where the figures are fought over and why. In return, do this for me. Pause for 2 seconds and drop your guess for number 1 in the comments right now, just the name, before the spoiler arrives. I am betting most of you miss it. We begin at 20 and climb to a champion who has held his crown longer than several people on this list have been alive. Let's go. Number 20. Sarkodie, Canuck, estimated $8 million. We start in Ghana with a rapper who pulled off something almost nobody in African music manages. He got wealthy rhyming in a local tongue. Michael Owusu Addo, better known as Sarkodie, built the whole thing in TWI, and at the time that looked like commercial self-sabotage. The received wisdom was simple: rap in English or stay local forever. He ignored it, took home a BET Award in 2012, and ended up the most awarded rapper West Africa has produced, with a trophy count north of 100. But the $8 million did not come from lyrics. It came from him realizing early that a rapper is a distribution channel, and a distribution channel can move almost any product. Samsung, Guinness, Fan Milk, Tigo, plus his own Sarkses music imprint, property in Accra, and an apparel line. And here is the detail worth sitting with. Sarkodie is the least wealthy person in this entire countdown, and he still out-earns the majority of executives on the continent. That should tell you how thin the air gets by the time we reach the top. Number 19, Tiwa Savage, Nigeria, estimated $10 million. Before Tiwa Savage, no commercial template existed for a woman at the top of Afrobeats. She drew it herself, and she was billed in full for the privilege. She moved to London, sang background vocals behind Mary J. Blige and George Michael, trained at Berklee, and then made a choice most advisors would have talked her out of. She abandoned a working Western career to return to a Nigerian industry with no idea how to market a female headliner. What came next was pure leverage. Maven Records gave her a platform. The MTV EMAs made her the first woman to take Best African Act. And then came the move that actually built the fortune. A deal with Roc Nation, Jay-Z's operation, which handed her worldwide reach while she kept her grip on the continent. Stack Pepsi, MTN, and Maybelline on top, and you arrive at $10 million. Notice the mechanism, though, because it repeats all the way up. The songs made her famous, but ownership and endorsement equity made her rich. Number 18, Diamond Platnumz, Tanzania's estimated $12 million. Now we swing east, and this is where things get genuinely interesting, because Tanzania produced a man who did not simply enter an industry, he constructed one. Nasib Abdul Juma, the world's Diamond Platnumz, came up in Tandale, one of Dar es Salaam's toughest districts, selling whatever he could carry as a kid. When success landed, he refused to remain a solo act. He founded WCB Wasafi, a label that has effectively produced most of the major Bongo Flava names of the last 10 years, then added Wasafi FM and Wasafi TV, which means he owns the songs, the artists who sing them, and the stations that broadcast them. He was the first East African to cross 100 million views on a single video. Hotels, land, a phantom in the garage. Hold this idea in your head, because it comes back hard at number 12, where a Nigerian ran the identical playbook and doubled the return. Do not be the product, own the shelf. Number 17, Cassper Nyovest, Such Africas, estimated $13 million. Rafilo Mele Fula walked away from school at 16 to chase rap, and his father was, reasonably, furious. What Cassper Nyovest did next permanently reshaped South African hip-hop economics. In 2015, he booked the Ticket Pro Dome and shifted 20,000 tickets on his own name, something no local rapper had even attempted, and he branded it Fill Up. Then he repeated it at Orlando Stadium, then FNB Stadium, with a reported 68,000 people inside. He took a single concert and turned it into recurring intellectual property. That leverage bought him Family Tree Records, a landmark sneaker partnership with Drip Footwear, his own tequila label, and a Ciroc ambassadorship. But the real skill was quieter than any of that. He engineered conflict on purpose. He grasped early that rivalry sells seats, attention converts to cash, and being argued about beats being admired. $13 million later, the strategy is difficult to criticize. Number 16, Genevieve Nnaji and Nigeria, estimated $14 million. Quick reset, because we are stepping out of music. If this is landing for you, hit subscribe. Because two names inside the top 10 carry net worth figures that reputable outlets openly contradict each other on, and I unpack both. Now, 16. Genevieve Nnaji was on set at 8 years old and carrying films as a lead by 19, back when Nollywood shot fast, cheap, and straight to videotape. Oprah once introduced her as the Julia Roberts of Africa. But her money was never in performance fees, because historically, Nollywood performance fees were close to insulting. It arrived the moment she stopped auditioning and started financing. Lionheart became the first Nigerian original Netflix ever bought, in a deal reported around $3.8 million, and it kicked open a door every Nigerian filmmaker has since walked through. Add her St. Genevieve label, the Pro Soap and Range Rover deals, and Legos property. She sits here because she went from waiting on casting calls to signing the checks herself. Number 15. Djimon Hounsou Benin, estimated $16 million. This one deserves its own feature film. Djimon Hounsou left Benin for Paris at 13, and by his early 20s was homeless, sleeping in doorways. No money, no plan, no contacts. Thierry Mugler spotted him as a model. America followed, small roles followed that, and then Steven Spielberg cast him as Cinqué in Amistad, and the trajectory changed completely. 2 Oscar nominations arrived, for In America and Blood Diamond, and then he made the shrewd commercial pivot, Superhero Money. Korath across the Guardians of the Galaxy films, Rico in Aquaman, The Wizard in Shazam, plus Gladiator, Furious 7, and Charlie's Angels. His estimate sits near $16 million, and there is something worth naming here that Hounsou has said out loud himself. 2 Academy Award nominations and billions in combined box office, and he has publicly stated he has never been paid fairly in Hollywood. One of the most decorated African actors living, and he only reaches 15. Sit with that for a second. Number 14, 2BABA, Innocent Idibia, Nigeria, estimated $18 million. Every industry has a founder, and Afrobeats has this man. In 2004, long before streaming, playlists, or any real export machinery existed for African music, he released African Queen, and that record did the impossible. It left the continent on its own. It landed in a Hollywood film, Fat Girls. It turned into an unofficial anthem for a generation. He collected the first MTV Europe Music Award ever handed to an African act. And here is why he appears on a rich list, while so many of his peers do not. He lasted. He built Hypertech Digital, mentored the wave behind him, stayed commercially bankable for 20 years across Airtel, Guinness, and Nigerian breweries, and sat on a publishing catalog that never stops paying out. 18 million is not hit single money. It is a quarter century of compounding, and it functions less like a career than a pension. Number 13. Angélique Kidjo Obinon estimated $20 million, $20 million. We cross into the 20 million bracket, and to get there, we need the woman Time magazine crowned Africa's premier diva. Angélique Kidjo escaped a Benin under a Marxist government that wanted authority over what artists were permitted to sing, landed in Paris with nothing, and built a fortune on the one asset no algorithm can fabricate: credibility. 5 Grammy Awards. Say that again slowly, because it is the record. 5, more than any other African artist in history. She has recorded alongside Philip Glass, Bono, Alicia Keys, and the Luxembourg Philharmonic. She performed at a World Cup opening. Her wealth flows from a 4-decade catalog, constant touring in premium concert halls rather than clubs, orchestral commissions, a UNICEF ambassadorship, and her own Batanga Foundation. Angélique is living proof you never needed a viral moment to get wealthy in African music. You needed staying power and a well-stamped passport, and she has spent 40 years accumulating both. Number 12. Don Jazzy Nigeria estimated $26 million. Remember the own the shelf idea from number 18? This is where it fully pays out. Michael Collins Ajera, Don Jazzy, is not here because he is an exceptional producer, though he plainly is. He is here because he worked out ahead of nearly everyone in Africa that whoever signs the talent ends up richer than the talent. He co-founded Mo Hits alongside D'banj, and when that alliance collapsed publicly, he rebuilt from zero as Maven Records. Tiwa Savage, Rema, Ira Star, Johnny Drill, Latipo. A star factory with an actual production line. Then came the event that set his number. Kupanda Capital invested in 2019, and in 2024, Universal Music Group took a majority position in Maven in a transaction widely reported to value the label in the region of $150 million. Don Jazzy built an asset and sold part of it. That is not a music career, that is a venture exit, and it remains the single sharpest financial maneuver any African entertainer has pulled off this decade. Number 11. Victor Osimhen, Nigeria, estimated $30 million. Another reset, because sport enters now and the arithmetic changes entirely. Victor Osimhen sold sachets of water in Olusosan traffic as a boy. He lost his mother young. He was one of 8 children in a household that had almost nothing left. Today, he is among the highest-paid African footballers who has ever lived, having become the most expensive African transfer in history when Napoli sold him for a reported 75 million euros, on wages reportedly beyond 10 million euros a year, with Nike money layered over the top. He delivered Napoli their first Serie A title in 33 years and was named African Footballer of the Year. Here is why athletes crowd the upper half of a list like this. A musician earns per hit and per tour, but a footballer is paid every single week, whether the ball goes in or not, contractually in advance. Osimhen is 30 million deep and still in his 20s, which means the only realistic thing standing between him and a much higher ranking is a serious injury. Number 10. Burna Boy, Nigeria, estimated $32 million. Top 10 opens with the man who spent years rejecting the Afrobeats label entirely. Damini Ebenoluwa inherited a burden rather than a bank account. His grandfather, Benson Idoneji, managed Fela Kuti. So he did not grow up with money. He grew up with a standard he could not escape. The climb was ugly in places. He was dismissed, canceled, called insufferable, and he absorbed all of it and rebranded as the African giant. Then came Twice as Tall with Diddy, a Grammy, Love, Damini, and the night that permanently changed his valuation. 21,000 seats sold out at Madison Square Garden, followed by 80,000 at London Stadium, making him the first African artist to headline a UK stadium. His estimates swing violently, from around 22 million at the cautious end to comfortably above 30, because nobody outside his organization knows the true scale of his touring gross or what Spaceship Entertainment holds. My number is 32. Disagree loudly below, and honestly, you may well be right. Number 9. Lupita Nyong'o, Kenya's estimated $36 million. Number 9 is where African talent stops requesting a seat at the table and starts naming its own fee. Lupita Nyong'o was born in Mexico to Kenyan parents, raised in Nairobi, trained at Yale, then walked into her first significant feature role and left with an Academy Award for it. That is not a normal sequence of events. 12 Years a Slave made her an Oscar winner at 31. And rather than collecting prestige dramas indefinitely, she made a genuinely commercial decision. She bought into franchises. Star Wars. Black Panther, twice, in films that combined for well over $2.5 billion. A Quiet Place, Day One. Us, with Jordan Peele. Then she layered on the most lucrative endorsement tier in existence, fronting Lancome with ambassadorships at Tiffany and De Beers, plus a best-selling children's book in Solway. $36 million, and she is the only figure in this top 10 who assembled it almost entirely abroad without ever once distancing herself from home. Number 8, Mo Abudu, Nigeria, estimated $40 million. Here's the entry most channels quietly omit, and omitting her is just lazy research, because she may be the most structurally powerful person in this entire countdown. Mo Abudu started out in recruitment consulting, crossed into television with a talk show, then did what no African woman had done before. She built a network. Ebony Life TV first, then Ebony Life Films, then a first-look development arrangement with Netflix, followed by Sony and AMC. She produced The Wedding Party, which became the highest-grossing Nigerian film to that point. Forbes has called her Africa's most successful woman, and The Hollywood Reporter has placed her among the most powerful women in global television. Her $40 million is not celebrity income. It is equity in intellectual property, a content library, and a studio, which is the most durable asset class entertainment offers. Performers age out. Catalogs and production companies do not. If this ranking looks unfamiliar in 5 years, the reason will be Mo Abudu moving up it. Number 7, Wizkid, Nigeria, estimated $50 million. Half of you skipped straight here, so let me confront the obvious immediately. Wizkid carries the most contested net worth figure in African entertainment. You will find outlets publishing $4 million and others publishing $132 million, which is not a rounding disagreement. It is a chasm. What nobody disputes is this. Ayodeji Ibrahim Balogun featured on One Dance with Drake, a record that held Billboard's #1 spot for 15 weeks and stood, for a stretch, as the most streamed song in Spotify's entire history, which means he has been collecting publishing income on a global monster for close to a decade. He won a Grammy for Brown Skin Girl with Beyoncé. He became the first African act to sell out Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. He built Starboy Entertainment, secured major deals with RCA and later Sony, and has held long-running Pepsi and Nike relationships. I have him at $50 million, and I will stand behind it. Publishing on One Dance alone is an annuity most artists never get within reach of. Number 6, Sadio Mané, Senegal, estimated $60 million. Number 6, ran away from home at 15 against his family's explicit wishes to attend a football trial in shoes that were falling apart. His father had died when he was 7, in part because their village had no clinic to take him to. So when Sadio Mané finally had money, his first serious act told you everything. He returned to Bambali and built the clinic, then a school, then a mosque. Then he paid to connect the village to the internet and set up stipends for families. Meanwhile, the income was extraordinary. Liverpool, a Champions League, a Premier League title, then Bayern Munich, then a Saudi Pro League contract with Al Nassr, reportedly worth in the region of 40 million euros annually, a figure that makes elite European wages look modest. He lifted AFCON with Senegal and was named African Footballer of the Year. $60 million, and he is repeatedly photographed using a phone with a shattered screen. Wealth on this list rarely correlates with volume, which leads perfectly into number 5. Number 5, Black KFE Suhafri Shuafrikas, estimated $84 million. In 1990, a 9-year-old in Mthatha was caught up in a vehicle collision during a political rally, and it left his left arm permanently paralyzed. He was told he would never regain full use of it. He decided to be a DJ regardless and taught himself to mix one-handed. And Nkosinathi Innocent Mefumalo, Black Coffee, went on to become the highest-earning DJ on the continent and one of the best-paid electronic artists on the planet. His Ibiza residency reportedly commanded fees in the hundreds of thousands per appearance. He won a Grammy for Subconsciously, produced for Drake on Get It Together, and worked with Alicia Keys, Usher, and Pharrell. $84 million, assembled inside a genre African entertainment media barely bothers covering. And here sits the sharpest lesson in this whole video. He sold to the entire world in a format that requires no translation. No lyrics, no language barrier, no borders. Pure rhythm. It is the highest margin product in music, full stop. Number 4, Davido, Nigeria, estimated $100 million. Now the entry guaranteed to start a fight in the comments, so let me be precise rather than diplomatic. David Adedeji Adeleke is the son of Deji Adeleke, a Nigerian billionaire whose energy and education interests are estimated around $700 million or higher. That inheritance is exactly why his figure is so violently disputed. Some outlets, Yahoo Finance among them, place him at $100 million, while stricter estimates that exclude family wealth land nearer 28. Both positions are defensible depending on what you are counting. What I will insist on is this. Davido never needed a music career, pursued one anyway, and was excellent at it. If, released in 2017, has a strong claim to being the defining Afrobeats album of the streaming age. Fall charted in America years after its release, which almost never happens. DMW broke Mayorkan and Peruzzi. He fills the O2. He raised over $2 million for orphanages in one online drive and then topped it up himself. Fourth place, $100 million. And yes, the surname is part of that. Pretending otherwise would be dishonest reporting. Number 3, Trevor Noah, Such Africas, estimated $110 million. Bronze goes to a man whose existence was, technically, illegal. Trevor Noah was born in Soweto in 1984 to a black Xhosa mother and a white Swiss father under apartheid statutes that criminalized their relationship, which meant much of his early childhood was spent kept indoors and out of sight. He grew up broke, moving bootleg CDs to get by. He became the first South African comic to appear on The Tonight Show, and in 2015 he inherited The Daily Show from Jon Stewart, a role the American press widely assumed would destroy him. He held it for 7 years and was reportedly earning somewhere near $16 million a year by the end of the run. But the fortune is far wider than one desk job. Born a Crime sold in the millions and became a permanent fixture on bestseller lists. His arena tours sell out globally. His What Now podcast deal with Spotify was reported around $100 million. He has hosted the Grammys 3 times, and he holds an Audible partnership. $110 million. Africa's most commercially successful cultural export is a mixed-race kid from Soweto who makes a living talking, and there is something genuinely fitting about that. Number 2. Mohamed Salah, EGYPT, estimated $120 million. Silver, and I would argue no African has ever converted athletic ability into money more efficiently. Mohamed Salah grew up in Nagrig, a Nile Delta village, and as a teenager rode 5 separate buses in each direction, up to 9 hours of daily travel, simply to make training in Cairo. He was overlooked, underused at Chelsea, and written off by English football entirely. Then, Liverpool signed him, and he turned into one of the greatest players the Premier League has hosted. Multiple golden boots, a Champions League, a Premier League title, and a place in the record books for goals scored in a 38-game campaign. His Liverpool terms reportedly pay somewhere between $18 and $24 million annually. And on top sit Adidas, Vodafone Egypt, Pepsi, and Uber, alongside a personal brand so enormous inside Egypt that a documented number of voters wrote his name onto presidential ballot papers. He funded a school and a hospital wing at home. $120 million. And unlike nearly everyone else here, the bulk of it was contractually guaranteed before he kicked a ball. Number 1. Youssou N'Dour, Senegal, estimated $145 million. And here he is, the answer almost none of you typed in the comments. Youssou N'Dour is 76, Senegalese, performs primarily in Wolof, and carries an estimated $145 million, ahead of Davido, ahead of Wizkid, and by several measures larger than Burna Boy and Black Coffee combined. So how does that happen? Because he never built a music career. He built a slice of a nation's entire cultural economy and kept the equity. He started in the 1970s, effectively invented mbalax, exported it, cut 7 seconds with Nene Cherry, which moved millions of units across Europe, won a Grammy for Egypt, and had Rolling Stone describe him as perhaps the most famous living singer across Senegal and much of Africa. Then he diversified in a way no African entertainer has come close to matching. He founded Groupe Futurs Medias, which owns L'Observateur, the country's biggest newspaper, plus RFM radio and TFM television. He owns media infrastructure. He owns Jaloli, his label. He owns a studio and a nightclub. And then, as the final flex, he ran for president of Senegal, and when his candidacy was blocked, he served as Minister of Culture and Tourism instead. $145 million. 50 years of work. Not a single viral moment required. I left one name off deliberately, and it happens to be the strongest argument anyone can make against my ranking. Charlize Theron was born in Benoni, South Africa, and is estimated at around $170 million, which would place her at number 1 by a clear stretch. She survived a genuinely brutal childhood, relocated to America, won an Academy Award for Monster, and built her fortune across Mad Max, Atomic Blonde, the Fast and Furious franchise, and a Dior contract running close to 2 decades. I kept her outside the main countdown because her wealth was generated wholly inside the Hollywood machine rather than the African entertainment economy, and this video is about the second one. But if your definition of an African celebrity is simply anyone born on African soil, then she is your number 1, and I will not fight you on it. That is the 20. Roughly $1 billion between them, and one pattern that I hope became impossible to miss. The higher we climbed, the less the money had to do with being famous. Sarkodie at 20 is paid for his ability.